Welcome back to Autism at Home, Unit 1 on Key Strategies for Teaching a Child with Autism. In the previous lesson, we learned about the core basis of ABA, which is operant conditioning. And in the next few lessons, we will be talking about the 3 key strategies of ABA. Now, there are 3 key strategies you need to remember when it comes to applying ABA. These are your secret ingredients, and they are vital for teaching a child with autism effectively. These 3 strategies are, number 1, breaking skills down, number 2, pairing with reinforcement, and number 3, providing sufficient practice. And the first one we're going to talk about today is breaking skills down. One of the reasons ABA works so well is because it's designed to break complex skills down into small component parts so that a child with autism can actually learn successfully. Think baby steps, think learning bit by bit. Before you learn to run, you need to learn to walk. Before you learn to walk, you need to learn to crawl. Before we learn to crawl, we need to learn to sit, and you get the idea. Now let's think about something that we are good at, whether it's playing an instrument, driving a car, or cooking a gourmet meal. Think about all the practice you needed to have before you could do any of this successfully. Someone would have likely had to break the skills down for you in order for you to learn it. Now, if we try to jump straight to the end goal, we probably would not have been successful and likely even given up. The same key strategy of breaking skills down applies to children with autism and is really important. We need to teach them step by step rather than expecting them to jump straight to where we want them to be. Expecting and pushing them to do so can only result in frustration for you and challenging behavior for them. For example, let's take a look at speech. A frequently asked question we get from the families we work with is, will my child speak and when will my child speak? Now, speech seems so easy for most of us that we don't even realize how complex even the simplest of conversations can be.
Hi, Nosha.
Hi, Steph.
How was your weekend?
It was good. Went to the zoo.
Oh, how was it?
It was good. I saw a lot of pandas, a lot of penguins. Do you have a favorite animal?
Pandas are probably my favorite.
Really? They're so cute, right?
Yeah.
So to have that conversation alone required at least 5 conversational skills of greeting, responding, asking a question, answering the question, and staying on topic. Or what about just speaking one sentence? A simple sentence like this would involve having to know nouns, verbs, prepositions, adjectives, just to name a few. And remember, you might even have to break the skill down even further. Before a child can learn to speak in a full sentence, they have to be able to learn to speak in phrases. Before they can speak in phrases, they need to be able to learn to speak single words. Before they can speak single words, they need to be able to make sounds. Before they can make sounds, they need to be able to copy the sounds you make. Before they can copy the sounds you make, they need to be able to pay attention to you. And before they can pay attention to you, they actually need to be willing to cooperate with you. Which actually brings us to the building blocks of learning. As parents, we want our children to learn vital but quite complex skills, such as communication and language, play skills, social skills, daily living skills, and of course, academic skills. And at EAP, this is truly what our comprehensive, holistic program actually covers. However, there are some very important building blocks to a strong foundation that these complex skills need to sit on, namely the ability to cooperate, attend or pay attention, and imitate, or also known as copy what someone else is doing. Think about it. In order to watch these videos and learn what you're learning right now, you need to be able to cooperate, meaning sit down in one place without running off, attend to the content of this video without zoning out, and imitate the tips I'm giving you in this video. And at the foundation of these building blocks is the key principle of motivation, which we will cover in the next lesson. If you were to take away motivation or any of the building blocks, these more complex skills will start to fall down without those strong foundational skills. So before you want your child to start demonstrating a complex skill, ask yourself whether your child has the prerequisite skills to be successful at that level. If they're not, take a step back. And if they still can't do that step, take another step back. Basically, keep going steps back until you reach the step your child is most successful at. For example, if you wanted to teach your child to read, which of these books would we start with? Obviously, this book, a Dr. Seuss book, is way more complex than, let's say, a little board book like this. But at EAP, we may even start with an even simpler board book, which just has one picture and one word, versus a board book that then has one picture, but maybe two words like yellow banana. And then we would go into books with simple short sentences, and then eventually into a whole storyline like Dr. Seuss. Or maybe for your child who may not even be interested in books at all, we may actually have to expose your child just to fun books and the joy of reading or the joy of looking at books. And so that's where we would have books with puppets to show interest and to get your child to be intrigued by these books, or even little pop-up books like this with Elmo, which is like a peekaboo book. Now, what if you wanted to teach your child how to play a toy like a shape sorter? Obviously, between this shape sorter, which I have, as well as this shape sorter is going to be way easier. There's only 5 shapes that I need to find where this star goes into, versus this shape sorter, which I need to look around at all the different sides and eventually find out that this star fits in here. Or maybe for your little kiddo who may not have the attention to focus on a shape sorter like this, you may even just have to start with a simple ring stacker, and actually for your child just to put on one ring at a time. So before we complete this lesson, let's talk about school for a minute. We all look forward to our children transitioning to typical group learning environment, and we hope that they'll be able to learn from the other children there as well. However, there are some important questions to ask, such as what are the school readiness skills required for your child to be successful in that group environment. To list a few, cooperation is a major area. Being able to cooperate with the teacher, with the rules and routines, being able to line up, sit down in a group, the ability to respond to group instructions. If a child is not able to follow instructions with familiar adults at home, this is going to be very difficult in a group setting and will likely be fully prompted. Not to mention the expectation of distance learning, as teachers generally teach from a slight distance or even near the whiteboard, blackboard, or smartboard. And most importantly, the ability to focus and attend in a group environment with multiple distractions and so many other children there as well. Now it's your turn to try and put this strategy into practice at home. Firstly, remember to set your child up for successful learning. Try to start teaching them in a one-to-one setting so you can give them maximum attention. Secondly, make sure the learning environment has as little distraction as possible. It's really hard to cooperate and pay attention when there's lots of distractions and items that your child may actually stim on. Lastly, try to start breaking skills down. Try to use the step-by-step principle. For example, if you want your child to sit down at a table and learn, maybe you could start at just 30 seconds with a preferred toy or reinforcer, then gradually build it up to 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, and so on. So that's all for this lesson on the first key strategy of ABA, which is breaking skills down. The next lesson is all about the importance of motivation and reinforcement.